Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Pseudoscientific Conference. It's an annual event held by English Department of Faculty of Physics. My name is Yuri, and I will guide you through this wonderful evening of craziest ideas. Today we have 12 speakers, and let's greet the first speaker. He'll tell us about the theory of interminable stairs.
Hello, let me start the demonstration of my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, great. Dear ladies and gentlemen, my name is Pavel Mikhailov. I'm a student of Moscow State University Physical Department. Today, I want to present you my own vision on how our world works. The represented theory explains the basics of going upstairs due to the time-changing mechanism. Here you can see the plan of my report. Firstly, I will explain the basics of this theory, the origin of stair construction and general mathematical equations. Later, the main principle of this theory will be represented. And at last, some physical effects caused by this phenomenon will be listed. The origin of stair exploration. What did lead to stair construction? High cost of built-up area and lack of possibilities for ground-based structures contribute humanity to build either lofty buildings or subterranean formations. Anyway, human beings have to overcome height differences by using stairs, ladders, elevators, teleports, and so on. And it is a quite spread idea that all mental and physical efforts that people apply to climb or to go down are directly caused by the gravity force that counteracts the force of people's musculature. This principle can be described using only classical mechanics, as on this slide. But theory of interminable stairs, TIS abbreviated, provides more pervasive view to this phenomenon. It uses mathematical apparatus of quantum mechanics, general theory of relativity of Einstein, and last but not least, Purushkin's 7th grade of physics textbook to explain the process of going upstairs. Let me show you the theory. Firstly, it is required to determine the position of so-called human interaction center. This is a point where the comprehension of outer world is processed. It is known that this point can differ its position from one situation to another. This point moves lower down to heels in strange situations and can even get out of the body if the situation went crazy. Due to this reasoning, approximate change of position of the center can be easily found as integral from 1 to t and other formula. I will not list it all, where t mu nu is the special time-consuming tensor that is responsible for the existence of time delays. G mu nu is a metric tensor. Psi and phi are the wave functions of body on the stairs and on the ground state respectively, and psi and chi are the probability parameters. G capital is the Newtonian constant of gravity, and c is the speed of light. The main principle of the theory is a time-changing mechanism. According to this mechanism, when a body moves upstairs, its own time doesn't change for a moment. This is the so-called time discontinuity effect. This delta t is I'm sorry. It was experimentally proven that higher Vb, speed of body, corresponds to lower delta t, given by the approximate equation, delta r times Lo minus L over y and over Vb, where L is the distance traveled on the stairs, and it changes in accordance with delta t. And I will list on some criteria of different behavior and related physical effects, main results of this theory. Firstly, in fact, there are a variety of some physical behaviors that we can see in everyday life. For example, if you forget your iron is switched on nearby your papers folder with your passport inside, no stair is actually visible for you. But why does it happen? It happens because in this situation, delta r might tend to minus infinity, and according to the formula on this slide, delta t tends to minus infinity too, and you get a time warp on the stairs. See the first note on this slide. If body moves slowly and the length of stair is very high, there is non-zero probability of getting into the stair time loop. Asymptotically, you're climbing higher and higher, but never reach the top of stairs. You can see that this phenomenon is called the Joker's trap. It is mentioned in the second note on this slide. This is the main reason why there are so few ladders in lofty buildings. People just get looped and can't even reach the second one floor. Sometimes objects that are moving very fast when delta t tends to zero may produce time oscillations nearby the stairs, and under these circumstances, other people can be involved in the process of running along the stairs. This phenomenon increasingly appears in schools, when one moving body may involve more than 10 other subjects to run along the stairs. Thus, this theory provides another pervasive view to the problem of eternal stairs. Basic Basic mechanisms of the theory can be applied to a vast number of other theories of physical science, beginning from the problems of energy conservation and getting up to quantum gravitation theory. Thank you for your attention, and I'm ready to answer any questions about the theory or to listen to your suggestions about improving this theory.
Excuse me, Pavel, thank you for this nice report. I have a question actually. So are there other analogies that could explain this physical phenomena of time acceleration from the point of view of this theory?
Yes, there are some analogies. For example, imagine a quantum particle that is moving towards a potential barrier. Its energy is lower than this potential barrier, so in classical mechanics it can go through this barrier. But according to the quantum mechanics, it can go with some probability that is less than 1, of course. There is some difficult situation in the theory of interminable stairs. For example, if time warp is allowed, when delta t tends to minus infinity, the probability of getting through the potential barrier, as we can see, this is a stair, equals 1. So a particle, in general, this is a body, a human, it will go through this barrier with the probability of 1. But if time warp is not allowed, there is also some probability that varies from 1 to 0. And if a human can be trapped into Joker's trap, the probability that he goes through this barrier equals 0. But this is an asymptotical 0. So it does not equal 0, but actually it is. This difficult situation. It's not so easy to explain. It's something like this, I think.
Thank you, quite.
Okay, thank you, Pavel. Let's greet our next speaker. He'll tell us about human evolution and what role did mushrooms play in it.
So, hello everyone. Do you see my screen? Can you hear me? Is everything okay? Can anyone hear me?
Yeah.
Of course, we hear.
Okay, great. So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mikhail Umansky. I'm a third-year student here at Moscow State University Department of Physics. And today I would like to talk to you about a certain theory. This theory is called stoned ape theory, as you can see on the screen, and it explains how humans evolved from their ancestors Homo erectus, which were basically monkeys. So the stoned in this theory, the word stoned means high, as in ingested under an influence of a certain substance, right? So in our case, this will be the mushrooms, right? So the structure of my talk will be like this. First of all, I'll outline the basics of my theory, and then we'll take a quick dive into some ancient history, and then I'll explain why this theory actually makes sense. So let's begin. The author of this series isn't actually me. It's a person named Terence McKenna. He was an ethnobotanist, meaning, in simpler terms, a person who studies plants. So mushrooms in particular. He was also a mystic, meaning he studied experiences under an alternate states of consciousness. He was also consequently a psychedelic plants enthusiast. And let's sum it up in the word scientist. So the basic idea of this theory is this. We all know that humans first appeared on African continent. So Homo erectus, they inhabited the African continent and were living there, and life was fine there at first. But then the food started to run out, the desert started to spread, and well, Homo erectus started to run out of food. Uh, History suggests that they started to follow large herds of wild cattle, like cows and so on. So these are cows. Uh, and what do cows do? Cows poop. That is common knowledge. And here you can see how cow produces poop. And what isn't common knowledge is that there is a species of mushrooms that likes to grow specifically near cow poop. And these mushrooms are the mushrooms that we were talking about. They are called psilocybe cubensis. And they're commonly referred to as psilocybin mushrooms. Hopefully, you've never heard of them because they have psychedelic properties, meaning that a person who ingests them can apparently see through the fabric of reality, communicate with the universe, and so on. Simply saying, they hallucinate. And that's why they are illegal in most countries, including ours. Their possession or trade is illegal, and we don't approve of what happens next. So we know that Homo erectus are spending a lot of time near cows, and they are inevitably starting to notice these mushrooms. And while they don't look particularly appetizing, Homo erectus, started to eating them, probably because they were starving and had no other food, basically. And let's see what happens when a Homo erectus ingests those mushrooms. So at low doses, nothing extraordinary happens. Visual acuity boosts a little, and as well as edge detection. Edge detection meaning a Homo erectus that ingests those mushrooms can see a little bit better and detect edges of the objects a little bit better. But on an evolutionary scale, this is very much beneficial because it makes you a better hunter. And it's easier to survive when you're a better hunter. So there will be more of those Homo erectus in the future. At a little bit higher doses, the effects include a growth in reproductive energy, meaning more offspring, bigger families, and so on. And that's also from an evolutionary standpoint very good. And lastly, the most fun and illegal stuff happens at very high doses. There, hallucinations start to begin, and one can experience some religious experiences, some higher dimensions of reality, and so on and so forth. It also, the psilocybin in the mushrooms also enables the part of the brain that is linked to language forming. So the Homo erectus that consumed very high doses of psilocybin, they experienced some religious things, and they also formed language and so on. And that's how art might have emerged, because when you are a Homo erectus and you have a religious experience, you might as well draw it down or play some music to visualize what you're going through. So that's the basic idea of the theory. Some monkeys ate a bunch of mushrooms and became consciousness. The technicalities might be on the a bit on the shakier side, but well, this makes sense to me. I hope it does to you too. Thank you for attention. I would like to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you for such an interesting topic, but I have one question. Why haven't other animals developed consciousness then? Why only humans?
So that's actually a difficult question because we can't actually say that no other animals have consciousness, because we know that we ourselves do, because each one of us has his own or her own consciousness, right? And we assume that all humans have consciousness because of this. But we can't say that other smart animals like higher primates, or for example dolphins, which are also very smart, we can't say for sure that they don't have conscience. Maybe they're just pretending to not have one. But also maybe cognitive abilities of Homo erectus were very high compared to other mammals. And well, birds can't really eat mushrooms, I think. So I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Michael. It was really interesting. And our next speaker uh, has another really fascinating topic. It's about relativistic backpack. So let's welcome him.
Thank you, Yuri. Let me show you my presentation. Okay. Can you see it?
Yes.
Thank you. So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sergey Pankratov. I'm a third-year student of Moscow State University Physics Department Semiconductors and Cryo-Electronics Chair. And I'm going to present you my latest development called Relativistic Backpack, or shortly, RelaPack. So everyone had such a problem that all the necessary items didn't fit in your bag. With my invention, you will never face this problem anymore because it can accommodate as many things as you need. The principle of operation of this device is based on the consequences of Einstein's special theory of relativity, and it's very simple. Actually, at the early beginning, I had a research assistant, and the first idea that occurred to us was to create a black hole inside a backpack. But the test of the prototype went unsuccessfully, and he was sucked into the backpack. So I don't know how to get him out of there yet. That's why I decided to choose a different approach. So due to the special theory of relativity, there is Lorentz contraction, a phenomenon that a moving object length is measured to be shorter than its proper one. But unfortunately, the effect is noticeable only when the speed of the object is comparable to the speed of light. So here, an inevitable question arises. You're not going to speed up things to wild speeds, are you? Of course, neither am I. I'm not insane, it's just impossible. So I decided to use Lorentz contraction vice versa. I'm going to accelerate the space inside the backpack to high negative speeds to lengthen the transverse dimensions. To prove the possibility of such process, let's look at the formula given below. This formula is for the Lorentz contraction. We will transform it, reducing the squares and taking into account the sign of the velocity. Here, L is the observed proportion of the internal space. L0 is the real one. V is the space velocity. The letter C is staying in the third place in the English alphabet, so we can replace it with a constant. C equals 3. Don't forget about the units, meters per second. So now it's clear to see that transverse dimensions lengthen with increasing space velocity module. But how to implement all of this in an ordinary backpack? We will be helped out with black holes again. It's well known that the black hole is represented as a deep funnel caused by pushing a region of space-time with a supermassive body. Moving these objects can distort space enough for us to put something into the grooves around their edges. On the other hand, a black hole can be created as a result of high-energy nuclear reaction. Let's try to take such a possibility. So how does the RelaPack work? The main component of the RelaPack is a singular reactor. It produces enough energy to create and to hold nano-black holes inside your backpack. But sometimes these black holes will throw out colossal energies by emitting X-rays and gamma radiation. The first-year student will say it's a problem that needs to be solved. The third-year student will say it's an opportunity that needs to be utilized. So energy-absorbing containers will be embedded in around the perimeter of the backpack. So excess energy will charge a smartphone or something of the kind. For example, it takes about 1.5 hours to charge a Tesla car at an electric station. With a gamma burst from a black hole, it will take about 5 times 10 to the power of minus 39 seconds. Impressive, isn't it? The last feature of this incredible RelaPack is the opportunity for time traveling. Another consequence of the Einstein special theory of relativity is time dilation. The faster an object is moving, the slower time is going on in the frame of reference associated with this object. This phenomenon is illustrated in this formula. We remember all the calculations that we have made above, so we have the right one. Here, delta t is the time passed inside the backpack. Delta t0 is the time passed outside the backpack. V is the space velocity. Thus, you're able to almost stop the time just climbing inside the backpack, and it might be useful for doing your physics homework there, for example. So to summarize, I have developed the theoretical concept of the relativistic backpack. There is a special theory of relativity at the heart of the device, and it's reliable as a Swiss watch. It can charge your smartphone, fit as many things as you need, and even stop the time. Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions about the project, I'm ready to answer them.
Thank you.
Sergey, thank you for your research. I think it was a remarkable one. Still, there is a question. This equipment must weigh really a lot. So do you think it will be possible for an ordinary man to wear it?
Nice question. At the first sight, the answer is no. But an ordinary man, an ordinary human, can wear some kind of supporting exoskeleton to lift such massive objects. So the answer is yes. Why not?
Thank you. That's great.
So, let's greet our next participant. She will tell us about the breadth of Russian soul.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Anastasia Yeremenko.
Good evening. Sorry. Good evening.
I'm a third-year undergraduate student of physical faculty, and I would like to tell you about how to measure the breadth of the Russian soul. So let's start. It's well known that there is such a thing as famous Russian soul. Even Fyodor Tyutchev wrote that no ordinary yardstick can span her greatness. But what if we try? So let's do it. Let's get started. First of all, let me remind you what does it mean to measure a physical quantity. To measure a physical quantity means to compare it with the standards taken as a unit. For example, we have a centimeter, a length that someone once fixed and took as a standard. And now, in order to measure the length of something, we take a ruler, apply it, and see how many such reference centimeters fitted in our object. That is, we compare it with a standard. But we have one problem. No one yet has tried to measure the latitude of the Russian soul, so we don't even know what to compare it with: meter, centimeter, kilogram, second. Therefore, we need to find this our standard. So let's start looking. If a foreigner is asked about the manifestations of the Russian soul, then he will look for an answer in Russian literature. And one of his first options will be the famous bird troika from Gogol's Dead Souls, describing the wide and boundless expanses of the Russian land and the Russian soul. What kind of bird is suitable for us? Of course, the eagle. We, as happy owners of Russian soul, naturally need scope. So let's look at this indicator. BRS, which is the breadth of the Russian soul, equals the span of one eagle wing times 2, equals 225 centimeters. But this is somehow not enough. Hence, we must look for another standard. Maybe it can be compared to a phoenix, an eternal cycle of combustion and rebirth from the ashes. Then BRS equals span of one phoenix wing times 2, equals 15 meters. Still not enough. We have to think more. Russia wouldn't be like this without its women, so fragile and at the same time strong and shoulder in a rut. Passion and
Very nice. Sorry.
And probably the most famous example of such a woman, wife and mother is Anna Karenina. In this case, we need to compare the Russian soul with a train, because Russian soul is exactly what destroyed Russian women. Then BRS equals car length times number of cars plus locomotive length equals 23 times 6 meters. Trains for the second half of the 19th century times 8. It's historical information. 32. equals 220 times 0.8 meters. But this is clearly not enough to grasp the immensity. We remember further. Among other Russian writers, a foreigner couldn't fail to remember Dostoevsky, and then Alexei Karamazov appears with his talks about the Russian man and his religiosity. Consequently, the Russian soul is a temple. For comparison, let's take the Peter and Paul Cathedral, practically the tallest of the temples in Russia. So BRS equals height of Petropavlovsky Cathedral with spin equals 122 times 5 meters. And this is even less than we did before. So what else can be turned to? Many writers has mentioned the power that comes from this very earth and fills people from that very spirit. I believe that in this case, it's necessary to take into account not only the area of our country, but of the entire planet in general. Because with the development of the transports, our people are in all corners of the planet. And in all these corners, thanks to them, people have an idea of the Russian soul. Therefore, BRS equals planet circle length Earth equals 2 times pi times Earth radius equals 2 times pi times 6,371 kilometers equals approximately 40,000 kilometers. This is already something, but it still seems to me that it doesn't reach the true value a little. It takes a very long time to sort out the standards in this way, so I will return to the original question and ask myself, what do I mean by the concept of the Russian soul? If you ask me to describe space in a thesis, I will say that space is everything. This is something that has no beginning or end, something that contains absolutely everything and something that is easy to get lost in. For me, Russian soul is space, immeasurable and immense, the one where much hasn't yet been studied and explored, and the one about which we know nothing and we can only believe that there is something in there. Indeed, we can only agree that you will not grasp her with your mind or cover with a common label. It has its outstanding kind, you must believe, without fading. That's all, and I'm ready to answer questions.
I have a question. Can you please tell me, might the breadth of Russian soul change, or what if it gets even wider?
In the course of our research, we found out that the Russian soul is endless and unique, and this will be relevant for any of its width. So there wouldn't be any problems. And I also think that this topic, this work is relevant because absolutely everyone is concerned about this. And until now, the answer to this question hasn't been found. So the demand for my supply will be very high and I will earn a lot of money to fund my further research, even on other things.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. So let's welcome our next speaker. His name is Ruslan Gavrilak, and he will tell us about pi number, apocalypse, and flat Earth.
Please wait a second. I will turn on my demonstration. So is it here? I'm already sharing my screen.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, thank you. My name is Ruslan Gavrilak. I am an expert in number theory, and I'm working in the collaboration with the famous mathematician Sergei Torbin. He is the head of the Department of the Mathematics, of the Moscow Pythagorean University. And by the way, he is here with us today, so let's greet him. Our research is about number pi, and we'll start from the history. Excuse me, my presentation seems to, oh, there it is. We'll start from the history. Since ancient times, humanity has been struggling to adapt to cruel world in which we live. Year by year, it is inventing increasingly sophisticated things. In antiquity, new buildings with some elements of round shape had been constructed. For example, like those on the slide. These are the columns of the great Knossos Palace on the Crete Island. It was observed that the relation of circumference to diameter is the same one for every circle. And later that number was given the name pi from Greek peripheria, literally circumference. Okay, but what is so particularly interesting about pi, you'll probably ask? Actually, a lot of things. Firstly, it is a rational number, and since it can be written as a ratio of two integers, or as a periodic decimal fraction, so all the digits in it must be entirely chaotic. But is it really the case? Let's see. Now I'm inviting you to take a little journey to the sphere of mathematics. There is a notion of normal number, the number which contains every arbitrary combination of digits with some asymptotic frequency. You can see a rough example on the slide. What about pi? You are probably wondering right now. As for today, there is no proof or disproof that it is a normal number. But in this work, we are aiming to show to you that in fact it is, and also there is a strong reason to be afraid of it. And now a lyrical digression. It is well known that many superstitious people are trying to find some regularities and patterns in places where in fact there aren't any. And consider Nostradamus, for example. At first glance, his prophecies appear as absolutely absurd. I believe most of you will agree with that. Nevertheless, there is a certain non-zero percentage of people who are constantly seeking some confirmations and facts that have been predicted by him. And now I see the question in your eyes. But what does it have to do with number pi? Actually, the things are connected in the most direct way. Believe it or not, but if we take a closer look at the decimal notation of pi, we'll find out that it predicts all the humanity's tragedies and misfortunes in a way more accurate and exact manner than Nostradamus could ever dream of. There is no need to search for some misty parallels, let's just analyze. Now let us clarify our methodology. In this work, we will use some of the formulae from combinatorics, but nothing more than that. Now let's consider combinations of digits of this sort. You see them on the slide. The total number of such combinations is 1,080,000, and it roughly corresponds to the total number of dates between 1st January 1st AD and 1st January 3000 AD. So here we have an interval of 3 millennia. And now I will ask you, how many of those combinations can be found in number pi? Do you think 1,000, maybe 10,000? My answer is every one which is connected to some terrible event. Well, see for yourself. Consider, for example, the date of the beginning of World War II, one of the most horrible and drastic events in all the human history. So we are searching for combination 1st September of 1939 in number pi. For that purpose, we can use special program, which tells us that for the first time, a required combination appears in this position. It is somewhere in 400,000, as you can see. Still thinking this is just a curious coincidence? Okay, let's take another noteworthy day, the one on which Tunguska meteor hit the Earth. So we enter the date in our program and immediately get the answer. It is in this position. You don't believe yet? In order to verify our hypothesis, let's check another date, 17th March of 2020, the introduction of quarantine measures on the physics faculty, undoubtedly the most unfortunate event for all of us. Probably these things don't surprise you anymore, but in any case, our combination can be found in this position. A little bit far, but still it is there. So all 3 out of 3 dates of random misfortunate events are found among the first billion digits of pi. And now, what do you think about that? I think it is safe to say that we have learned something. Pi must be regarded as some kind of a cipher. Sadly, we don't know all the series of digits in it, but the little amount of knowledge we possess should be horrifying already. Now let's proceed to our main question. Are there any human beings who are capable of deciphering it? And isn't it strange that it is the relation of circumference to diameter, not some another fundamental constant, that contains all the possible and impossible, dreadful things. Circle, sphere, how beautiful and aesthetically appealing to the eye those objects are. There is, though, one organization, which members apparently don't share this opinion. You probably already got it, but I'm talking, of course, about world famous Flat Earth Society. So it turns out this organization exists for a reason, and apparently for a good one. Most likely, they are the ones who managed to unveil a great mystery about pi, and now they are preventing us from doing the same thing. There is no other way to explain their prejudice against such perfect forms as sphere and the obsession with those flat surfaces and which have sharp edges. Unfortunately, it is hard to tell from our insufficient material what else can be found in depth of this remarkable number. Maybe World War III, apocalypse? I'm leaving those questions unanswered, and it must be the starting point of a new and more profound research on the topic. Thank you for the time. And if you have any questions, I really like to listen to them and maybe answer.
Well, Ruslan, I wonder whether you are hoping to uncover all the secrets of the pi in future.
That's a good one. Our goal with Sergey is to solve Pi's problem once and for all. So, in order to do so, we will face every danger which might be in our way.
Thank you, Ruslan. It was scaring, really scaring. And let's greet our next speaker. He'll tell us about something more positive, uh, about microuniverses.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. Can I share my screen? So this is a presentation, right?
Yes, it is.
Well, I have a better theory of our universe, and it's connected to the microuniverse. So we're here today to share our crazy ideas with each other, and this is my time. Let me introduce myself to you. I'm Maxim. I'm a third-year undergraduate student of Moscow State University, physical faculty. My specialization is quantum electronics. And here is the structure of my today's talk. Firstly, I will explain the main points of my theory. Secondly, I shed some light on the main principles laid in its basis. Finally, I make an astonishing conclusion about your possible future, so don't miss the thread of the talk. I want to ask you one thing. What is the most important, most basic question? Different people have different answers, but I believe the main question that exists is the question of the evolution of our universe and the scenario of its future, and ours one consequently. Today, scientists believe that we appeared by accident as a result of the Big Bang, and the universe will cool down for billions of years. But what if they are wrong? What if it didn't happen by chance but had been planned? And what if it won't cool down? A statement of a great American scientist led me to some thoughts, and today I want to share them with you. And now I'm turning from a third-year undergraduate student to an expert in the sphere of Rick Sanchez and his researches. And I'm going to give you 7 minutes of real stuff. What was before the creation of our universe? Most scientists believe nothing. And this is indirectly indicated by all the available data that our universe was born from nothing. What do we know about nothing? It is the absence of something, void, and the highest quality void is vacuum. Back in 2015, the great American scientist Rick Sanchez showed, theoretically deduced, and experimentally proved the existence of vacuum fluctuations, which are placed inside a temporal field. My theory is based on his discoveries, and first of all, I should explain some principles to you. With all the rigor in his work, Rick scientists show us the process to occur in a vacuum. After pumping an unlimited vacuum into a box with a temporal field, the upper means the total field of all interactions, which gives the absence of the absence of matter. An infinite universe appears in the box. In order for life to appear in this universe, obviously vacuum fluctuations must be accelerated. Over time, life will arise there, and it can be used. And since time in the macro-universe flows orders of magnitude faster, we can get an intelligent civilization in about a few weeks. And this sounds great, doesn't it? So what do we always need? Energy. Therefore, created people in this universe can be used to generate energy for us. How can we realize this? We need to give them technology from our world that will give them energy when they work, and some of the energy they will produce and consume, and another energy, under the guise of the fact that this is a dangerous surplus, we will pump into our universe. To set up this process, you need to be very careful and not give a reason for just created people to suspect you. For this purpose, you can use antennas on your head to make you look like an alien and not like an exploiter. In this way, we will achieve your goals without arousing any suspicions. Now we know the principles, and I'm ready to make conclusions. And the question arises, do we live in a micro-universe? To answer the question, you need to know what the criteria define the micro-universe are. The only criterion is the difference in the energy produced and consumed. And as you know, there are enough resources on our planet to provide us with energy at a very cheap price. But we also know that electricity rates are rising all the time, so we don't have enough energy. Consequently, we have an imbalance in the production and consumption of energy, and thus my hypothesis that we live in a micro-universe has been confirmed. Now when we answered the question about the birth of our universe, we can get to the main question arose in the beginning. What will the evolution of our universe be in this case? Let's assume that in some universe, there is a being who has created a micro-universe. Now we may have a person who can create his own tiny universe, and in this tiny universe, there may be another person who created a mini universe, and so on. The process is infinite. This means that in a very short time, our universe will cause many micro-universes in itself, and this will continue indefinitely. And as the same micro-universe, our universe will also exist in another higher level universe. But unlike the Big Bang theory, there may be another very important scenario of our future. Some higher level scientists may just overturn the box with our micro-universe inside. Sad, but really true. However, nobody knows what is to come. Stay optimistic and enjoy your life. Thank you for your attention.
Do we have any questions to the speaker? Okay, then let me ask you some question, Maxime. Okay, let's suppose that your theory is right, that you're right. What knowledge is given to us then? How can it help us in everyday life?
It is a really good question. Maybe not. And it is as much important as this theory is. What does the knowledge that the Big Bang has happened give us? How does it help us in everyday life? I think you agree it doesn't help at all, but probably it makes you smarter or more civilized, maybe. And this is the same thing. There is no purpose. The theory helps you in your everyday life, or you can get any benefits from it. It just exists, and you just should know it, as you know that the Earth moves around the sun.
Okay, thank you very much. I agree with you. Okay, we have next speaker, and he has the theory of perfect initiation. So
Yes.
let's welcome him.
Okay, now I can share my screen. Okay, I hope everything works. So I am Maxim Lenivkin, a student of the Faculty of Physics. And well, I wonder if there is anybody here who's never taken part in such event, namely the initiation into physicists. Frankly speaking, if there are such individuals, I hope they'll try visiting such event because I truly believe they are missing an opportunity of their life. Nonetheless, I'd like to introduce my ideal initiation theory to you. So, as you may probably know, here at Physics Faculty of MSU, one of the most remarkable events is the initiation into physicists. It's a fantastic and unforgettable annual festival which takes place in the forest. Furthermore, it's undergoing the initiation is one of the significant and most favorite traditions of our faculty. That is why I try to figure out what components make the initiation so special to everybody. Having attended the previous three initiations, both as a participant and as a member of an organization team, I had the chance to study in depth the fundamental principles of this event. And well, I tried to show this in my theory. Uh, every initiation, first of all, every initiation starts with the gathering at the entrance to the Faculty of Physics. Here, a very important variable is density. It's linearly proportional to the number of people waiting for their fellow students who have overslept everything but still didn't manage to get enough sleep. Well, indeed, my experience prove that keeping density of people in front of the physics faculty before the initiation for a considerably long time inevitably results in a gathering potential, which consequently raises social tension. And social tension is a rather important variable in my theory, and it will be used later. Apart from this, there are rather efficient methods of increasing potential and rising social tension. So, as you can see on the picture, if we calculate the curl of the field in which students move, it's obvious that it's not equal to zero. Clearly, that means that social density depends on the trajectory. That actually explains a great number of things. First of all, it makes clear why it's important to gather near the university and only then travel to the railway station. And by artificially extending the way students have to travel together, we increase social tension. Furthermore, this effect can be applied to the route in the forest, explaining why its trajectory always seems to be chosen so suboptimally. So, moreover, a very efficient method in treating the social tension is overcoming difficulties in cooperation. That is why the date of the initiation is chosen at the end of September. Obviously, the initial reason for this choice is to let ruins ruin the route with dirt and make it unbearable. Also, this is the reason for creating checkpoints. What initially seems like a great opportunity for some rest on the route appears to be sadistic contact games. Throwing raw eggs, packing the entire group in one tent, and other stuff like that are either ruthless but still an impactful way to achieving our goals. And so, finally, exhausted and forlorn, students arrive at the camp. Having passed kilometers of dirt, lost in the forest for several times, and arrived long after the sunset, students are finally ready for the final part of the initiation. At this point, the social tension is peak and means the successful outcome of my experiment. And my theory, well, thinks that the main process which happens here is a rising social tension, which results into creating strong social bonds and the feeling of unity. Now, in the end of the route, when students have accomplished a great number of things together, when they have passed all the challenges, they now feel like one part of a team. They feel like a part of something bigger. And that's actually the main point of my theory. Well, and in conclusion, I'd like to emphasize that my theory manages to explain the fundamental principles which underline the initiation into physics. Well, it's clearly seen that the process of rising social tension occurs and its results to creating social balance. Well, finally, the initiation into physics has always been a remarkable experience and memories that will always be cherished. And as for me, I can't but give you a piece of advice. Never miss such event and you'll never regret it. So that's all I wanted to say. And I'm ready for any questions.
Well, you were talking about the theory of perfect initiation, and this topic is really close to me. So I have a question. What do you think about the initiations on other faculties? I mean, can this theory can be implemented to improve such events in other faculties?
Yeah, other faculties also participate in initiations, and I believe that my theory can be used to improve these initiations. Because, for instance, in some faculties, students just go to club or just meet together. And I think that's a great mistake. And I truly believe that our faculty should share experience, and other faculties of MSU should try making their initiations similar to us, similar to us, because well, I think that our initiation is rather special uh, due to these processes which I told in my theory. That's my answer.
Thank you, Maxime. Well, actually, the next speaker is me. So let me give you my, I hope, interesting talk. Some problems. Do you see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. So, good evening one more time. My name is Yuri Burikov, and I'm the third year student of Moscow State University. In my laboratory, we study human relationship from the point of view of mathematics and modern physics. Recently, I've got some interesting results concerning theory of human relationship and women's beauty. And as a scientist, I'd like to share this result with the whole world. In my opinion, every woman is beautiful, but as a researcher, I need formulas, interrelations, quantities to measure beauty and maybe to use it as an eco-friendly source of energy. So I have developed the first mathematically approved theory of human relationships and women's beauty, and I hope you're already excited. So let's get down to business. First of all, we need to define the object we're talking about. As you know, everything around us may be described in terms of wave functions. For example, wave function of electron in hydrogen atom consists of complicated spherical functions, while the wave function of my girlfriend is just absolute zero because she doesn't exist. But let's stop talking about frustrating things. As my theory is the first theory in this field, I call it classical theory of beauty. Consequently, we can omit every quantum effect in zero approximation. Let's suppose that there is a beautiful woman somewhere in your neighborhood. In my theory, in my model, a woman is just a material point creating beauty central force field around her. And the intensity of this field depends on many factors, on weather, clothing, makeup, but the main factor is distance between you and the force center. Imagine that the woman is so far away that you just can't see her. In this case, her beauty is vanishing, goes to zero. On the contrary, let's imagine that she's so close to you that you just can't focus on any detail, so beauty goes to zero again. Without any doubt, I suppose that the woman's beauty is a continuous function of distance. So, according to Rolle's theorem, if a continuous function contains equal values at two distinct points, then there is an extremum point between them. So, there is a distance where a woman's beauty attains its maximum. I call it whistling distance because men usually start whistling like this while staring at women at this distance. So after that starts so-called attraction and picking up parts. And here we need to talk more precisely about the actual form of beauty potential and the behavior of man in this potential. How far a person will get depends on his initial energy. At first, everyone is attracted, but if we look to closer distances, there is you don't suit me distance with its first potential barrier. If you don't have enough energy, then you will be rejected, unfortunately. But that's not the worst thing that may happen. If we look even closer, we'll see a huge barrier at friend zone distance, while the area between friend zone distance and you don't shoot me distance is usually called friend zone in popular literature. Some guys are stuck here forever, even if they used to have a lot of energy. That happens because of discouraged social pressure and many other negative things. Um, of course, there are lucky beggars who are cheating and using a really popular quantum effect called tunneling to go through the barrier. But one should be really afraid of it because of two factors. The first one is that the probability to go through the barrier is increased by alcohol artificially, so the consequences are just unpredictable. And the second reason is that the probability to go from the other side of the barrier is much lower, so you may stuck there forever and ever even if you don't want to. The last area we should consider lies after so-called friend zone barrier, and I call it dating zone. After having passed all the challenges of beauty potential, you can finally suggest her to start dating. As a matter of fact, the actual form of the potential is still really faded in this area, and using my theory, we can only make some inaccurate uh, proposals about it. For instance, there must be confidence and closeness barrier at so-called let's stop pretending being cultured people and just eat junk food together distance. Also, there are many funny and sometimes sad moments. And to finish my talk, I'd like to remind you that even though my theory is mathematically proved and has a lot of experimental data, it doesn't claim to describe everything about relationship because they're much more sophisticated, complicated, and breathtaking than just formulas and graphs. Just go on and try it. Just do it. So thank you for your attention, and I'm ready to answer your questions.
Thank you, Yuri, very much. Let me ask you quite an unexpected question. Have you made any experiments to test your theory with girls, certainly?
Oh, yeah, no, of course, we used to have several experiments, about five. I used my laboratory colleagues as guinea pigs, but all the experiments they failed, and I think that happened because we didn't take into account the theory of men's charisma. In our further research, we're planning to take it into account, and I hope we'll get some interesting results. Thank you for this question.
Thank you for a completed answer.
Okay, and let me introduce our next speaker. She will tell us about the hollow earth. I think it's rather interesting topic.
Good evening. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Anna. I'm a third-year student of Physics Department of Moscow State University, specializing in quantum physics. However, a sphere of interest of mine goes beyond this, frankly speaking, narrow research area. So today I'm going to discuss with you my scientific work that I suppose is more than just a simple empirical dreams or imaginary world. What is it about? The Earth is hollow inside. It is empty, blank, and now there is really nothing inside. The underground is a home for two civilizations, the hell and the paradise one, and there is no even a space for any substance or matter. For not to mess everything up and not to confuse you, dear colleagues, I should firstly present you a plan of following research. Firstly, I will point a number of scientific facts that are believed to be truth these days. Secondly, I'm going to notice data that makes us wonder if the previous information is not really wrong. And finally, I will show some facts that can prove the theory and finally allowed plans for the future. Now, let me present you all the data received from scientists, the information that has currently been recognized as official and the only fair. I suggest we move to underground together and find the hell civilization and the paradise one. That is how our planet looks like in the context of scientific view. However, the first ultra-deep wells of ultra-deep drilling in Kola Peninsula that are only about 13 kilometers, it's not a lot, yes. They broke all the scientific foundations. That was the situation when the practice refuted the theory. Those wells were even proposed to be closed in 1984 or 1985, allegedly for being unnecessary, but we do know that they were practical aspect. I will name only two aspects that can broke this theory. Firstly, mm, a great concentration of methane that was found in depth of 10 kilometers broke the theory of the birth of hydrocarbons. I cannot ask you a question, namely if we can trust science that states that hydrocarbons can exist not far from the surface, inner or outer of our Earth. And they suppose that 10 kilometers is such a strangely deep habitat for this substance. Secondly, discoverers took the soil from 3 kilometers from the drill, and it turned out to be that the substance is the same for the moon one. So not long time ago, we thought that moon was broken from Kola Peninsula, but now we do know that Earth just gave birth to the moon in about 3 million years ago. Colleagues, I want to repeat my question. If we should trust scientists, or maybe we have to refer to other sources of knowledge. Mm, Frankly speaking, I would rather address to non-fiction writers. Why? Likely, especially their hypothesis, highly come up with a theory of Hollow Earth. Let's take the engineer Guardians, for example. The novel has unexpectedly found their reflection in real life. Deposits of minerals, gold among them, were detected at the depth of 10 kilometers. That is again the situation when it's better to trust writers and not scientists. Mm, let's pass over to the idea that we do not really know anything about our interior. This terrifying thought made me learn more about this theory of Hollow Earth and comb through plenty of myths and legends to reach the truth. And it turned out to be that tales and historical annals contain the information we are looking for. Moreover, a great number of facts that we have the privilege to get from books and that have had no any firm foundation before are really born from the theory of the Hollow Earth. From our point of view, they even confirm this theory. So, I wondered if humanity wants to learn more about the underside of our Earth. And surely it does. The underground kingdom, not somewhere but here under our legs, was firstly mentioned in a novel of 1883 called Sons of Gods. Then the hypothesis was recognized in 1910 work called Mission of India in Europe. And finally, the fundamental paper of Fyodor Asendovsky, named Both Animals, Both People, Both Gods, has definitely determined the Hollow Earth theory of our world. The most convenient part of this fundamental article, as for me, describes a greeting with the underground llamas. I hope you remember that llama from Tibetan means a highest principle, or less literally, the highest mother or the highest parent, to show close relationship between a teacher and student. Briefly, we cannot ignore the emptiness under us, which was improved by side creatures. Mm, what is between the core and the crust? The answer is simple, really simple. The inner atmosphere. The whole world, this civilization, the same construction has been indirectly confirmed by scientists. Firstly, observing stars with telescope, we can view the center of it and the shell. There is no even a hint to find any mass or ground in space. So what are we talking about? Secondly, the identical idea can be viewed in the model of hydrogen atom. I hope you know where is the right one. Oh, it is simple because the right one is on the right. But well, we state that the Thomson's model of solid atom is wrong, and here a question arises again: why, considering Earth, we should change our mind? Because I suppose that what can be found in small things, the same can take place in big one. Moreover, we know about experiments with the vibration of sand on flat boards, and we remember the results. You can view them in the picture on the left. As everyone knows, each planet is located in certain frequency characteristics, and it turns out there is a center and there is a standing wave around again. No filling. The mass situates only in locations of no harmony. Standing waves again. To tell the truth, there are many facts worth mentioning. Now, firstly, we know why water does not accumulate and where it goes. The answer is it goes to the inner atmosphere, to the inner civilizations. Now we know where do birds hibernate. They go to underground atmosphere to spend their winter there. And finally, we know why planes and helicopter routes never cross north and south poles. They are just afraid of glancing the hole that leads to the hell and the paradise. Dear colleagues, frankly speaking, I don't want to make you waste time talking about inaccurate conjectures and imprecise assumptions, because the fact is that the volcanologist from the Institute of Geology in North Pole agreed to get in touch with us. Everyone will get an incredible opportunity to ask him the trickiest question ever in real life the next week. So be sure to come. You will never regret, I hope. That is all for today's presentation, and I'm ready for your questions if there are any of them.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. I have one question. So, what research are you planning to conduct in the nearest future? And will your results convince humanity to have their own knowledge about Earth structure?
Well, as I've already noticed, the volcanologist is coming the next week and he has a plan. So we are going to hold a group of scientists that will go to North Pole and study this hole together. I'm sure we will find this, and then we will meet on the next presentation. I think it will be something like this. Any other questions?
Well,
No?
I think no. Thanks, Anya, for such an interesting talk. We're looking forward to your further research. And let's greet our next speaker. He'll tell us about suspending animation below zero.
Okay, I'll do this. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Whenever you watch me, you watch our conference. I'm a third-year undergraduate student of physics at Moscow State University, Petrov Ivan. And everything is okay?
Yes, it's okay.
Yes.
So today I'm going to present to you my latest research under the title of Suspended Animation Below Zero. Do you know what suspended animation is? If not, this temporary slowing or stopping of biological function so that almost all psychological capabilities are preserved without terminating life itself. In some contexts, it can be called anabiosis or hibernation that can be either hypothermic and cryothermic. Um, Most people envision space shuttles and people in cold dream there, but everything is a bit more complicated. Here in the presentation, you can see the structure of my speech. And now I think I'm ready to start. The possibility of hypothermic suspended animation was shown by a series of experiments. For example, in January 2005, the scientists at the University of Pittsburgh announced they had managed to place dogs into suspended animation and bring them back to life, almost without the brain damage, by draining the blood out of the dog's bodies and injecting a low temperature solution into them, which in turn kept the bodies alive in stasis. Unfortunately, the students wanted to go home very much and the time for workshop was limited. So the dogs have been clinically dead for only 3 hours, and then the blood was returned to the circulatory systems, an electric shock was delivered to their hearts, the heart started pumping the blood around the body, and the dogs were brought back to life. The students whose dogs died were given unsatisfactory marks. Impressive, isn't it? The same thing is true to people. We are going to learn about people who managed to survive. John Smith, a 14-year-old boy, survived 15 minutes under a frozen lake with no heartbeat before paramedics came and pulled him onto dry land and saved his life. A Japanese man, Mitsusaka Uchikoshi, survived for 24 days in the mountains without food and drinks when he fell into a state similar to hibernation. That's what regarded to hypothermic suspended animation. Today I'll try to show you, comrades, the possibility of the cryothermal one. According to the Arrhenius equation, the life activity decreases exponentially with temperature. There K is the rate constant of chemical reaction, A is just constant, EA is activation energy of a molecule, R is the universal gas constant, and T is just temperature. The main problem of cryobiosis is water crystallization in a body. When water turns into ice, human cells burst and the body gets irreversible critical damage, like the poor dogs did. So a question arises, if there was a liquid substance at the temperature much below zero. You may wonder why. So may I. The point is that before placing human organism into hibernation, the blood must be changed with a non-toxic cold liquid in order to do minimal harm to the brain. And this secret substance exists. Can you guess which substance I'm talking about? Well, this is just nitrogen, which is ignored by circulatory system. After the liquid was found, the second thing needed is the replacement of blood with a solution of liquid nitrogen and saline. The nitrogen at the temperature below 70 kelvins should be injected slowly because of great temperature difference. Probably you wouldn't like to die unblooded, would you? Due to the fact that nitrogen doesn't react with hemoglobin, the exchange of substances must be successful. The cooled body should be stored at a low temperature below the evaporation point of the injected solution, for instance, in dewars, due to otherwise fatal gas formation in blood vessels and cells will lead to thawing of the body and death, an unwanted ending. Dear friends, I'd like to stress there that the idea of hibernation will revolutionize the field of medicine, allowing the treatment of bullet and stab wounds, as well as cosmology, allowing interstellar flights without creating generational ships. However, the method can promise 100% functionality of the brain after thawing. So maybe someday will be offered to be placed into hibernation for 1, 2, or 500 years to receive extra money from the bank after waking up. But learn before agreement that not everybody will be brought back to life. Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, I may answer them.
Yeah, I have one question. Were there any other attempts to place humans into suspended animation? Had anyone used your idea before?
A good question. Let me think for a while. Certainly, I'm not the first human who guessed how to implement the idea of anabiosis. The original concept comes from Maya Indians. They used hibernation when they arrived to our planet. Just think about it. How could they come there another way from another solar system? I think this is the right answer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And let's meet our practical last speaker. He'll tell us about reptiloids.
Yes. Wait a second. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Shampletov Nikita. I'm a third-year undergraduate student of Faculty of Physics, and my specialization is quantum electronics. Today, I would like to shed some light on such contradictory question as the conspiracy of reptiloids. Let's start with definition. So, reptiloids, also known as Anunnaki, are a civilization of human reptile that reign behind the scenes in our world. Accordingly to the assurances of conspiracy theorists, they represent the world government and exercise control through third parties, which are purebred people or human-reptile hybrids. So, where did they came from? Obviously, they came from the planet Nibiru. So, what's about the arrival time? Well, there is no consensus on the date of the first arrival of reptiles on the Earth, but some facts tell us that they arrived at least 5,000 years ago. That is the minimum age of these statuettes, and note that these depictions are found all over the world. It cannot be just a coincidence. So, what do they want? Against the lifeless of space, our planet looks like an oasis in a desert, doesn't it? So, the minerals we have will be useful for other civilizations. So there is plenty of reasons for an alien invasion. There is also another interesting fact. Governments will never tell us, but our species was deliberately created by Anunnaki as a labor force for the extraction of earthly jewels. Why exactly people? So the creation of robots, for example, turned out to be too unprofitable since it implies huge expenses for the manufacture and repair of cyborgs. That's why reptiloids decided to create people. It's so clever. Well, let's turn to the Bible now. On the last day of creation, God said, "Let us make man in our image and in our likeness." Bear in mind that the ancient Sumerians called the gods those very snake-like beings. Now, let's turn to the extraction of immaterial energy. Many objects seem completely that seem completely normal to people are in fact designed to transmit energy to reptiloids. So, what's about the mausoleum in the center of Moscow? Clearly, that is their pyramid transmitter. Even Christmas trees have been spotted in this thankless affair. The energy that we're so strongly urged to actively spend by celebrating New Year's holidays goes through these pyramid trees directly to Anunnaki. Well, now, when we're well aware of this danger, I would like to give you some pieces of advice about how to detect them and how to protect yourself. So, unfortunately, reptiloids do not show their real appearance. Instead of it, they mimic normal people, but still, there are some signs of them. So first of all, that is unusual eyes with narrow pupils. Then it is hate. The third one is extraordinary physical power. Then thermophilicity, and finally pronounced sexual characteristics. You may ask me, what should I do if I encountered a reptilian? And the answer is simple. They are so sensitive to light. So as a deterrent, you can use a phone flash that gives you a moment to escape. Also, when encountering a reptilian, use meaningless words because their brains are much more logical than yours, and that's why they cannot perceive the ridiculous or illogical. In addition, bear in mind that they can easily read your motivations because they can feel a person's frequencies. The entire set of human frequencies are based on electromagnetic pulses, and reptilians can feel that pulses. When a person is in fear, the frequencies are low and easy to recognize. Bear in mind that the most difficult thing to recognize is the brain working with no emotions. Okay, now you know that you can protect yourself, and also you know how to do that. But 95% of people do not know how to do that, and that's why we must propagate this knowledge. And I ask you to do that. And finally, they are much closer than you think. Be careful. Thank you for your attention.
Well, do you have any questions for Nikita?
Any questions?
I have one question. Nikita, I am very excited with your series that you have presented.
Maybe
and I have one interesting
there is
question.
a problem with sound.
Some problems? Do you hear me?
Yes.
No, there is no problems.
Okay, Nikita, I am very excited with the theory you have presented, and I have one interesting question. Are there
I
any?
don't hear you, unfortunately. Why?
Well, Nikita, can you hear me?
Strange. Wait a second. Try to say something.
Do you hear me?
Yeah, now here. Okay.
Okay. Nikita, I'm very excited with the theory you have told us about today, and I have one interesting question. Are there any other energy transmitters?
Yeah, you know, there are some. As secret forces tell me, even our main building may occur to be their transmitter. So if you feel bad around it, that means that the reptiloids may be connected to you. And to protect yourself, you may use, for example, a foil hat, just like this. You can use it, and that is really work. Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Welcome our last guest. He'll tell us about laziness and how it helps in progress.
1 second. Can you see something?
Your presentation.
But that's not it. 1 second.
Now we see laziness is an.
Is it good?
Yes.
Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gonos Artem, and I am an experienced expert in the sphere of laziness. As you know, this topic is pretty complicated and controversial. That's why I'm working at this topic in collaboration with my scientific advisor and talented researcher named Sergey Torbin. Let's greet him. And now, let's start, shall we? Each of us is familiar with the state when we need to do something, but instead of working, we choose resting. This phenomenon is called nothing but laziness. Here, an inevitable question arises: what is laziness? According to its definition, laziness itself is a useful natural mechanism for regulating human activity. It is not for nothing that laziness is said to be an engine of progress. At the first sight, how can the desire to rest be a reason of progress? For a long time, there have been many explanations, but I would like to offer you my original one. To start with, let's reformulate the definition of laziness. In fact, a person who is lazy throws things, putting them off for the near future. Throw means moving some object with a throw. What do we have? An abandoned case is a case thrown at a certain speed. Correspondingly, a person who has abandoned a case, according to the laws of conversation, acquires some impulses, which corresponds to the second Newton's law, entailing the emergence of force under the action of which this impulse has changed. Consequently, throwing away a case forms some force. The engine is an internal mechanism, the driving force of the phenomenon that leads to its development or progress. Thus, we have found the force that will be the engine in our case, which is exactly the very laziness. The next question arises: why does it propel progress? The question is more delicate, but it has also been grounded in my theory. Usually, laziness arises in relation to something that a person is not interested in. In this case, we can consider laziness in the projection on the axis of interest, where the positive part will be interesting to a person and the negative part will be uninteresting. It means that according to the law of reactive motion, the impulse increment will be directed just in the positive direction of the axis of interest and will contribute to the increased intensity of work in the direction interesting to a person, which will lead to a fast progress. Dear friends, let's move on and consider the behavior of the laziness engine in a relativistic case. As we know, when speed tends to the speed of light, the formulas that we use on a grounded scale are especially unsuitable. In our case, this is an arising of something fundamentally new, the so-called eureka. In our theory, speed is the inspiration that the person gets when he leaves the case. If his inspiration is so great that it is approaching to eureka, the impulse changes much faster and the driving force becomes much greater. Thus, laziness is giving great benefit to the inspired people, and that's how most of the inventions were made. Another important point in considering laziness as an engine is the frequency of laziness. That is how often a person is lazy. As it is known from physics, mass is a measure of inertia. Laziness in its essence is also inertia, and a person who is constantly lazy, gaining such a large mass that the new abandoned cases do not give him any impulse, but at the same time, more and more pull this person to the bottom. And this factor should not be ignored. However, there is also a concept of laziness breakdown. Even if not for all, but if you throw the cases to the last and their execution is necessary, then the person will gain a huge impulse, which is enough to do everything in time. But I wouldn't actually recommend practicing it. The only problem with this model is that interests are different, so not all people will progress in the right direction. But it is already a property of laziness, which is useful only in skillful hands, and unskilled people should either learn to use this mechanism correctly or stop being lazy at all. What is easier, everyone is to decide by himself. Every soul has its own way, doesn't it? Make your own and be happy. Thank you for your attention. Any questions?
Yes, I have a question. So what did you decide for yourself? So did you learn to aim your laziness in the right way, or did you stop being lazy at all?
Obviously, I didn't stop being lazy because probably I'm the laziest person in the world. Actually, I'm trying to aim my laziness in the right directions. For example, how it works. For example, if we have some subjects, for example, maybe physics or mathematics, and the Russian language and speech culture. And if I have homework for both of these subjects, I would just either do homework in physics, probably theoretical mechanics, because I like it, and I will dig deeper in this subject, either studying some Russian or other subjects like this. So that's how it works for me. Thank you.
Thank you, very interesting.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, our conference has come to its logical end, and now I'd like to give the floor to Amelia Bordina, the founder of English Club, the aim of which has always been to encourage such events. Welcome.
Dear friends, dear participants, on the behalf of the head of the English department, Irina Kovalenko, I'd like to express our sincere gratitude for participating in today's conference, the very one being held in so sophisticated and awake period of everybody's life. It's really great that you managed to find inspiration, motivation, time, forces, to say nothing or desire, to prepare incredibly bright and unforgettable performances. It's a well-known fact that organizing public performances in the English language has always been one of the major activities of the English department. And today, you have provided us with an astonishing opportunity to continue this tradition in spite of everything. We can't but be proud of you. Thank you for support, for participating, for collaboration, for friendly atmosphere and positive emotions. We wish you further progress in mastering English, the knowledge of which is of great demand nowadays. Thank you once more. See you soon.